Welcome back, guys. Picked this thing up last night at the Datsun house. It's a 76 King Cab. It's very, very yellow. I'll throw in a clip of us pulling it off the trailer last night. Pretty good. Fenders a little rotten. The rockers look decent, I guess. For some reason the doors are very rotten. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Little rot here, and yeah, it's obviously been repainted. It used to be blue. Got some more rot over here. Again, the doors are rotten, but the rockers are kind of there. I don't know. Top of the door is rotten. Inside is very nice. I've never seen one as nice as this. It's got a little single DIN radio. I think this one has factory AC. It's got some dash vents in the center where the radio usually goes. Yeah, headliner, it looks like aftermarket. Light up here. It's got some random parts in here. Looks like brake lines and turn signals and tail light lenses, and that's a clutch light cylinder. Another clutch light cylinder. Okay. Got the airbox lid here. That's a brake master. This is, what is this? Carrier bearing for the drive shaft. And another clutch master. Anything in the glove box? Just some tape. It's got this dash cover on it, so I'm sure the dash is all cracked up. They did, I guess, a decent job painted. They did the jams, which is kind of weird. It looks like it's yellow back here though, but this door is definitely blue. So yeah, let's pop the hood. This hood hinge is, looks like the spot welds came off, so we're gonna have to fix that. Old radiator. I think this is an L20B. That's what it says on the VIN plate here. Factory carburetor. Looks like completely factory. Intake, exhaust. Is that? Oh, that's a small pump. I see. There's a there's a shut off here for a heater core. That's weird. Battery trays rotten. I see AC lines. That's missing one, but I don't see an AC compressor, which is a little weird. I don't know. It does have a condenser in the grill though. Missing that line again. Missing all the spark plugs. I think it spins over. I haven't really looked. But yeah. It is a 76, so it does have front drums. Pulling it off the trailer last night, I noticed that the brakes did not work, so that's good. Looks like it's infested with wasps and ants. So yeah, that's gonna be real fun. But we'll see what happens. This is a little weird. The wheel wells here are yellow. This is yellow. But there's also blue. This fender is blue. Blue here. And blue here. So I don't know. Maybe it's been painted 2 or 3 times. Some more blue back here. Some more wasp nest. I think this one actually has floors, to be honest. Yeah. Decent floors on this one. Got some big speakers here. Not much behind the seat. Some fuel filters and belt. Some more fuel filters. That's about it. Yeah. We'll get this one going. See what we can make of it. I don't know a whole lot about this truck. I think it's been at the Datsun house for maybe a year. I don't know anything about it before that. They did say something about the gas tank being rotten. So probably have to do a fuel cell since it's a 76. Unless some random person has a fuel tank for it. But yeah, we'll get into this. Gotta figure out if it spins over. That battery's from 2022, so I assume it hasn't been sitting for too long. Maybe 3 years, who knows. Yeah, we'll get started here, see if it spins over, find some spark plugs for it, and see if she'll be a new cruiser. Alright, as Vice Grip Garage says, every good project starts with the battery on boil. It's only 3 years old. Like I said, battery tray is pretty much gone. Here's the battery holder. That's mint. Excuse the mess. If you saw the last video, you'd understand why there's such a big mess. This battery, I think it's got a few bad cells. It won't hold a charge at all. But since we're tearing this down and planning on engine swapping it, steal the battery out of it. And I'll steal the spark plugs out of the engine with the blown head gasket. I think I replaced some of this stuff, so should be good. We'll throw that battery in that truck again, these spark plugs, and then we'll figure out a fuel system if they're telling me that the fuel tanks are rotten. Okay, let's get this battery in here. A good thing to do is always make sure your terminals are clean, or you're gonna have a hard time starting it. These are really corroded, so definitely want to keep them clean. better. That is a little bit better. Get some of this stuff out of here. I don't know what this stuff is for. We'll just throw it up here on the counter. And let's get our battery in here. These are backwards. This is going to be our positive. I think any hard bump in that battery is going to fall out the wheel. Clean this side because these terminals don't look much better. And now we do the old fire test. Nothing. Let me go grab the key because the key's inside. Got the key here now. We're gonna hit some of these spark plug holes with some PB blaster because I don't know how long this thing's been sitting, to be honest with you. That'll be good for now. We're gonna pop off a fuel line. Guess we'll do right here next to the carb. Loosen these up a little bit more. And let's get this hose off. We'll go twist on the key and see if anything happens. It is an insanely loud aftermarket fuel pump. I didn't even realize it was missing the fuel pump. I guess let me turn it over. I don't see any fuel coming out, so I'm guessing all the gas that was in the tank is out of the tank. There we go. Turns over, no problem. That fuel pump is very loud, so I'm assuming it's got no fuel in it to calm it down. Let's see, we might jack this up and get under it and take a look at that fuel tank, because again, I was told it was rotten, but I haven't really looked at it at all. Alright, let's get this thing jacked up. Sorry about the driveway being so dirty. Literally right after I finished recording that video, Datsun House messaged me and was like, hey, come by this. So yeah, haven't had time to clean the driveway. Throw some jack stands under the axle. Oh, we're gonna miss. Stop right there, readjust those. Should hit now. There we go. Now, let's get under this thing. Not really seeing anything that stands out. As far as the fuel tank being rotten, maybe the bottom bolt leaks some, the drain bolt, but not really seeing anything wrong with it on the outside. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I don't know. Doesn't look that rotten to me. There's that fuel pump. Looks like the one that's on the RV. So I'm assuming it's factory. Got a really junky fuel filter here. I guess what we'll do is we'll borescope the fuel tank, see how bad it is. Gotta get into here though. Oh, never mind. Let me find something to kill those wasps with. Got us some brake clean here. Let's see how bad this ends. Holy cow, I've never seen so many. Luckily, none of them got airborne. Oh, I think that's all of them. Let me clean up my mess and we'll get that tank borescoped. Yeah, I've never seen that many wasps in one place. I hope they're all dead. Thing was on there. I don't know. I've seen worse. Let me borescope this. I tried to borescope it, but I can't really see anything, so we might have to end up just dropping it and seeing how bad it is. Or just dumping a bunch of gas in it and seeing if it clogs anything up. I think that would be a better idea. Let's dump some gas in it. Got 3 gallons out of the RV and it's still got more in it. So I guess we'll dump these 3 gallons in the yellow truck and see if it'll hold some fuel. Guess we'll drain all that fuel out of the RV because there's no telling when it'll be back on the road. One of my Instagram friends sent me a link to some 4 pans, so we'll probably get those ordered up soon. I gotta sell that Taurus. After that Taurus sells, I'll buy those 4 pans. There's about 2 gallons. I don't really see any leaks. We might just pop the drain plug out of this and see how bad the fuel looks now. Alright, I'm down here next to all the wasps. Let's see how bad this fuel tank actually is. Not seeing anything leak out. This was already wet, so I'm sure it's been off before. Oh, I see some rust. Water. It's a little plugged up. Let me go get something to unplug it with, like a pick or something. Okay, I got us a pick. We'll get this thing drained out. At least 2 gallons. I'm assuming there's nothing in it, because the fuel pump didn't pick up anything. Look how dirty it is. It's splashing everywhere. I don't know. Got a little rust tint to it, but it's like, I don't know, not too bad. Wish I could see with that borescope. But it doesn't look rotten or soft on the outside. But there's no telling what the inside looks like. Guess we'll stop it there and turn the key over, see how bad the fuel lines look. Oh, down my elbow again. That fuel in the drain pan don't look too bad. Alright, let's see what happens with the fuel pump. Okay, right here, I got a fuel line ran down to here below the grill. We're just gonna see how nasty it looks when we run the fuel pump. I have to dump some more gas in it. So I was a little concerned about why we weren't getting any fuel. I dumped another gallon in there, and I pulled this fuel hose off, and if you can't see, there's junk in that pre-filter, and this hose is completely blocked up. So we might have to pull this fuel tank. That's gonna be a whole lot of fun. Great. Guess I'll get the front up so I can actually roll underneath this thing, and we'll start getting this fuel tank out. Alright, got the front up now. The more I get under this, the more I realize this thing is absolutely loaded with options. It's a king cab. It's got the electric fuel pump, factory AC. It's got a sway bar. You know how rare sway bars are in these? This thing is loaded with options. Oh. Now that we got this up in the air, we can see how we get this fuel tank out. Looks like there's 2 bolts on this side. I think there's 4 in the back. Oh nope, 2 in the back. There's probably 2 more. Yeah, 2 more on this side. And then all the fuel lines and the fuel sender. Carrier bearings busted. Glad we got another one. Let's just take a look at the floor of this thing to appreciate it. No rot. Absolutely nothing. They're starting to get a little rot right there, but it's not through anything. That can be cleaned up. Let's go over here to the passenger side. Again, nothing. She's getting a little soft in some of these areas, but nothing is through yet. I have never seen one with such nice floors. This is crazy. The underside is pretty dirty, but she ain't rotten. Other than the doors. I don't understand why the doors are rotten. Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, she's a good one. Let me get this fuel tank out. First things first, we're gonna get the rest of this gas out of here that I poured in here. Just so it's a little bit lighter. We'll drain all this out. We'll get some of these fuel lines off, just so nothing catches. And then we'll get the fuel sender unplugged and start unbolting this thing. Got all that gas drained out now. I'm gonna start getting some of these hoses off and try to get this filler neck off. And then we'll look into getting the fuel sender off. I'm gonna do these off camera just because there's nowhere really to put the camera. Okay, I think we got everything off except for this one vent line. This one, from what I can tell, it does not go to the fuel tank, which means it probably goes to the charcoal canister. Got the filler neck off here. Gonna need a new clamp for it. Had to cut this one because I got this clamp off, but I couldn't get the line loose. Got the fuel sender unplugged, so yeah, I think it's just that one on the top. We are going to get the impact and start lowering this thing down. I really hope these are 12s. Looks like they are. My extension might not be long enough. I might need a longer extension. And of course that's stuck. Let me go get the ratchet. Alright, I got a ratchet with a really long extension. Hopefully I don't break these bolts, because that would not be fun to replace. Loosen, tighten, loosen, tighten. Get those threads clean so we don't break any bolts. I got the front 4 out. I broke 2 and I've saved 2, so 50% save rate right now. I gotta get the 2 in the back out and then we can lower this down, which means I'm gonna get a jack underneath this fuel tank and slowly get those back 2 out, and we'll get this thing out here shortly. Okay, managed to save both of the bolts in the back, so we got 4 of 6 that we can reuse. Let's see if we can get this fuel tank down now. Nice. Something holding it up. Can't figure out what though. Stay. There we go. I can see a little bit better now. Alright, she's out. Let's see how nasty it really is. And now that it's semi cleaned off, we're gonna get this fuel cylinder out so we can see the inside of the fuel tank. There we go. Getting it to move now. I think I have another fuel cylinder we can use if this one's bad. There's the ring. Yeah, it's not looking too good in there, but I don't see any holes on the outside. This might be something that can be cleaned up. Let me go get a flashlight. Can you guys see in there? I don't know. There you go. Yeah, she's pretty rotten on the inside. Lots and lots of rust. That's unfortunate. Crap. You can't really buy a fuel tank for these late or early models because they bolt to the bed instead of to the frame. If it bolted to the frame, you could buy a fuel tank for Nissan 720 and it bolts right in. But since this one bolts to the bed, we're pretty much going to have to clean this one unless we do a fuel cell. And I'd much rather have the factory fuel tank. So let me think. We'll probably wash this out with some water and get the big stuff out, and then look at it again, see how bad it really is, and go from there. Might have to send this off to a radiator shop. Okay, we're making a total mess, but we're making some progress here. It's easier to show you guys with my phone. There we go. She don't look too good, but we're getting most of the big chunks out of there. And it's starting to clean up a little bit. Obviously it looks rough, but we'll figure it out. I'll probably wash it out a few more times. All this is rust flakes, but we'll figure it out. Okay, I've drained and filled this thing a few more times. All the big flakes are out. It's really just the liner, or the what do you call it, the seal that's in there now that's coming out. But I think we can just throw some fuel in it and run it, to be honest with you. See, all that isn't really rust, it's the sealant that they use to seal the tank. We might have to do that before we throw gas in it, do another seal, but it's not rotted out. We'll clean up the outside here, throw some paint on it, and we should be good. Man, so almost done cleaning this up with the wire wheel, and it got to the bottom here, and we got some pinholes right here next to the drain plug. So I might be able to zap that up with the welder since it's had so much water in it. I don't think there's much gas. I don't think there's any gas left in it. But that is definitely going to be a problem. Let me get the welder ready, and we'll hit this with a couple zaps. Okay, we're either about to fix this gas tank or explode, so let me get it suited up, and hopefully we can get this thing knocked out. Alright, there goes nothing. I don't think that's hot enough. We'll bump her up to 5. See what happens. Looking pretty good. Let me see if I can find a grinder so we can knock that down some. Alright, I found a very well used flap disc. So we're just going to knock this down and see if we have any more pinholes. Looks like there's a tiny one right there, so we're just going to hit it real quick. Tack it up and knock it down again. Knock that down again and see what it looks like. Alright, I think that'll be good enough for our sealant. No more pinholes, no more problems. There might be a couple pinholes, but like I said, nothing that sealant's not going to clear up. What we're doing right now is getting this fuel tank prepped. Last clips we washed it out. I've got these little vacuum caps we're going to put over all the ports here and seal them up with some zip ties. We're going to throw the fuel sender in it just so that's covered and we have one single hole. Instead of the muriatic acid, we're going to use the Pour 15 metal prep. I bought this a while ago, but since we're using the Pour 15 fuel tank sealer, we're going to use their metal prep. This is a little bit safer than that muriatic acid. It's going to etch the metal and cause that fuel tank sealer stuff to actually bite into the metal, and we won't have to worry about any muriatic acid problems. So let me get this fuel tank sealed up. We're going to put this in there, and we've got to keep the entire thing wet for at least 30 minutes. So I'm gonna have some fun shaking that thing around for 30 whole minutes. But we'll get it done. I'm gonna do that off camera since it's gonna take so long. And then after that, we'll get that cleaned out. Get that cleaned out, get it completely dry, and then we'll start using our fuel tank sealer. 30 minutes was not long enough for the fuel tank. It's been sitting overnight. Every few hours I'll change the position so the liquid's on a certain side, and it's starting to work, but it is what it is for right now. Hopefully we don't have to use any other rust converters. But what I'm gonna do now is pull this nasty fuel pump off and see if we can get it cleaned out, because it looks like it is stuffed full of rust and varnish. So let me pull that off real quick. I got our fuel pump unbolted, but there's no way to disconnect the wire. So I think we're gonna pull off this little metal pre-filter here and see if we can get it cleaned out and see how bad the inside of the fuel pump actually is. Okay, I got our pre-filter here. We're just gonna run a whole bunch of PB Blaster through this thing and see if we can get it to come out. I'm not really sure what was in it, but it did fall out. It was whatever this is. It looks like, I don't know, maybe a piece of a rubber hose or something. I don't know. The inside of this doesn't look bad after that fell out. So let me get this reinstalled and we'll see if it pumps fuel now. Okay, we've got this long piece of hose right here hooked up to the fuel pump. We're gonna fill this cup up with, I guess, some brake clean, because that's all I have. And put this hose in the brake clean, twist the key, and see if the fuel pump actually works. Whoops. Alright, let's see what happens when we turn the key. Huh, interesting. We might have to like prime the pump or something. Maybe it's just bad. Not really sure how to prime it. Unless we fill this hose all the way up. There we go. We got something out of it. Alright, let's see if it'll pull some fuel now. I could hear it spraying everywhere. So yeah, we're gonna call that good. Alright, it's about time we see if this thing will actually pop off and run. We're gonna check the oil real quick. Oil looks brand new. It's to the full line, so we're good there. Coolant. It's got coolant. Nice and green. We are going to go get some gas, shove that fuel pump line into a gas tank, and see if it'll spray out here, clean out this line, and then we'll connect the carburetor, and then we'll go from there. This is loose, so that's probably gonna leak. We've got to still pull those spark plugs off the other engine, and then we've got to figure out our spark plug wires because they're all over the place. Great. I think this is electronic ignition. I guess I could pull off the cap that is screwed on. Nice. I don't know why it's zip tied to that vacuum line. Okay, got us some cutters. Get rid of this, zip tie so we can see what's underneath this cap. Oh, it does have points. The points look like they were recently replaced though. I'm not sure how the contacts look because I can't really get in there. But that is different. We'll see if it's got spark, and then, like I said, we'll see if it runs. I got our spark plugs pulled, and I was about to throw them in this engine, and I realized that half of this carburetor isn't on, so we might have a giant vacuum leak if we try to start up this engine. I'm gonna see, I guess, if I can find some bolts and cinch that back down so we can not have a vacuum problem, because we've also got that EGR pipe that runs to it. So let me, I guess, see if I can find some nuts for that, and then we'll get our spark plug wires figured out. I think this one is number 1, and it goes counterclockwise. So 1, 3, 4, 2. Let me find some nuts. Found 2 in my bottomless pit of nuts and bolts. We'll throw these on, get this vacuum leak fixed up, and then we can continue to try to fix this truck. Time to throw these spark plugs in. That's nice. If you can't tell, this is cylinder number 1 from the RV. Yeah, doesn't look good at all, but hopefully this one will fix it right up. And we'll save this last one to test spark. Let me tighten these 3 down real quick. That's good for those 3. And I should probably rotate the engine and see where cylinder 1 is all the way at the top. See if I can shove this extension in here. Hopefully not scratch up the cylinder wall. And how do I turn this engine over? There's not much room at all. I can't spin the water pump because it's got a clutch fan. Can I spin the alternator? A little bit. That's spinning the engine just a tiny bit. Stop spinning. I don't know. We might just guess that that's cylinder 1. This one. 1. 3. Spark plug wires are terrible. They don't even click in. I have to steal the whole cap off the RV. Yeah, that just slides off. Let's see if 1 does that. Yeah, these are all terrible. I guess let me steal the wires off the RV as well. Okay, getting our spark plug wires on. I said this wrong. So, based on the RV, this should be number 1. If you're standing in front of the engine, it should be the one top right. That should be 1, 3, 4, 2. So let's get these spark plug wires on and finally see if it'll spark. This is 4. This one we will do 3. It's the shortest. This one will be 2. This vacuum line is right in the way. And I guess this one will be number 1. Set that right there, and we'll hook up this coil. Spark plug wires hooked up, coils hooked up. Let's see if this thing will spark now. I'm going to set up my iPhone camera so I can actually see the spark plug. And I know that fuel pump's not going to be happy because there's nothing in it, but it'll be fine. Now let's see if it's got a spark. Okay, I think it's sparking. We're gonna skip a step and just say screw the fuel pump for right now. I'm gonna fill the bowls with some brake clean, and we're gonna see if this thing will pop off and run. I think I'm running out of compressed air. There we go. Let's see if it'll start. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, no luck. We might have to try testing for spark later because I cannot see if it's sparking or not by myself. So, what am I gonna do now? I'll probably go mess with that fuel tank some and wait for Meredith to get home so we can see if it's actually getting spark or not. Jumping around a little bit here, it did look like we had spark when Meredith turned the engine over, so I'm not sure why it didn't fire off, but I think our gas tank's been sitting long enough, so I think we're going to go get the gas tank and start washing it out, and hopefully it'll dry so we can put our fuel tank sealer in there. Okay, I've rinsed this out multiple times so that our metal prep is completely out of it. Oops. It is looking better. It's not perfect, but you know, it is what it is. This has to completely dry before we can put our fuel tank sealer in it. And then once we put our fuel tank sealer in it, that has to take a whole 96 hours to actually work. And I know we have to keep turning it so we can get all sides, but we're moving along here. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it looks like most of the rust is neutralized, so it'll work for, I don't know, a while before it needs another one. Yeah, I'm gonna let this fully dry and then we'll get back out here on it. Getting our tank dried out here with a hair dryer. Once that's dry, it looks like we can throw this stuff in, rinse it around, get all of our sides, and then we've got to let it drain for 30 minutes. And then pretty much it just sits for 96 hours and then it's good to go. Hopefully this works, and hopefully we can get this fuel tank in a couple days here. I think once we get all that dealt with, we'll get back on the engine and see if we can get this thing running. I know it needs brakes. The brakes don't work. This side spins. This one's locked up. That one's locked up too. And that one spins. So yeah, gotta do brakes. No idea about the clutch. I'm sure it goes to the floor. Well, the clutch actually might work. I was told the brakes work, and then we got in it, pressed the brakes, and they went to the floor. So yeah, I think it's been sitting for about a year at the Datsun house, so it is what it is. We've got some brake parts, brake lines and master cylinder, but probably gonna have to order some wheel cylinders. And yeah, gotta figure out why this thing isn't starting. I don't know, but yeah, I'll catch you guys back when that tank's fully dry. Okay, we've got our tank completely dry now. We've got to mix up this fuel tank sealer pretty good, and then coat all of our sides. I've been shaking it up, so we're just going to use this paint stirrer or popsicle stick and finish stirring it up. There we go. It looks like metallic paint. Clumpy at the bottom, so I'm assuming that's not good. Let me get this stirred up and I'll be right back. Okay, I got our fuel tank sealer mixed up. We're gonna sacrifice this funnel here to get all this in here. Hopefully I don't make a giant mess. Alright, now that that is in there, we'll set this to the side, and we've got to get all our sides coated. So I'm going to fold up this towel here so we can cover this opening, and we're just going to grip it here and cover up all of our sides. Do the bottom and do the other side. Entire bottom of the fuel tank. And then we'll do the top. Sorry if you guys can't see that well. I'm trying to hug this thing and get every corner, every seam, and every inch of this thing covered in this fuel tank sealer. And then we'll do the side with the filler. Alright, let's see what it looks like on the inside. Looking pretty good. Looks like we got pretty much full coverage. I'm gonna shake it up some more just to make sure, because I can't see every inch of the tank. And then it says we've got to let it drain for 30 minutes, and then I can't touch it until Wednesday after work because it's Saturday right now. Look, there's a pinhole there that I never even noticed. All right. About as good as it's gonna get. We are going to let it drain. There we go. We'll let that drain until 1 o'clock, so it's 12:30 right now. And then we'll put that drain plug back in, and then, like I said, we won't touch it until Wednesday after work. While this is draining, I thought I should update you guys on the RV. As you can tell, the Taurus is gone. Sold the Taurus, so we're gonna order some floor pans up for this thing. I don't know, maybe tonight or something, and we'll get some more parts on the way for it. Again, these floors are terrible, so yeah, we're gonna have to do entire floor pans. We're gonna have to find some seat mounts, and then we're gonna need a whole bunch of sheet metal for the inner rockers, because no one makes inner rockers for this. Like I said, I do have outer rockers if I can find them. Oh, there they are in the corner below the hood. I've got hoods, I've got fenders. This is all from the blue truck that used to be convertible. And then we're gonna have to find a front crash bar because this one's so busted up and beat up. But yeah, hopefully this thing will be looking good here in a couple months. Yeah, we'll get those floor pans ordered up. They're gonna be the cheap eBay ones because the KF vintage ones are always out of stock and very, very expensive. But yeah, I'll see you guys after that is done draining. All right, this has about 20 more minutes to drain. While it's draining, we are gonna cut these caps off these fuel inlets and vent hoses and all that. And we're actually gonna spray them out with compressed air so that none of them get plugged up. And while that is happening, again, we're gonna let it drain, and then in 20 minutes, we'll throw that drain plug in and not touch it. So after 1 now, got the drain plug back in. We're gonna let that sit and do its thing. And that means we can get back on the actual truck and see if we can get it running. All right, so we got our floors ordered for the RV. I went and got a gallon of gas because we're actually out of gas in the RV's fuel tank. Next up, I am going to hook up these fuel lines. Just that one, I guess, to the fuel filter. We're gonna run fuel through the fuel system and let it drain out the fuel hose up here next to the carburetor, just to flush it out and everything. Once that's all good. We're gonna hook up the carburetor to the fuel line and see if she'll bark off. Got our fuel lines hooked up next to the fuel pump. We are going to connect our battery, and this is our fuel line to our hard lines. So we're just gonna run gas through the fuel system to clean it out. Let me turn the accessory mode on to run that fuel pump. There we go, it picked up fuel. And there it is. It was a little rusty, but it's not that bad. Alright, let's get this fuel line cut down and connect it to our carburetor. Alright, we'll get this fuel line cut down here. No hose clamps. I don't really see the point of the hose clamps right now because this carburetor already leaks. So this is just to see if it'll run off the original equipment. Get that on there. We'll run that carburetor, that fuel pump. We'll run that fuel pump a little bit just to fill it up. Try to free up that needle and see. I'm sure it's stuck. Oh yeah, it's just dumping gas everywhere. I wonder if the accelerator pump even works. I can't tell. There's gas hitting the floor in the back next to the fuel pump. So let's see if it runs. We're gonna try some starting fluid. See if it'll start on this. Come on. Oh, she almost had it. Come on, girl. Oops. I don't think it's gonna run off this carburetor. Well, she runs, albeit not on that carburetor, but we're getting somewhere now. At least it runs. Let's think. Obviously we gotta replace all our rubber lines. We gotta replace that fuel filter because it's nasty. We're gonna have to swap out the carburetor. If we do that, we might as well swap out the intake manifold because this one has a bunch of EGR junk on it. I've got an early model intake manifold that I like to use. It's got pretty much nothing on it, so that reduces a bunch of vacuum leaks. I guess our timing's right because it did run. It pretty much just ran on starting fluid. I couldn't get the fuel pump or the accelerator pump to work. So, what are we gonna do? I guess we'll start. I'll probably do the rubber lines off camera, just because, I mean, it's just rubber lines. We'll get this intake manifold off, and I guess we'll swap it out. I've got to get a gasket probably, because that gasket's probably going to be bad if we rip it off. Shoot. That's about all I can think we can do, is swap that carburetor and swap the intake manifold. Alright, first up we're going to get this carburetor off. I already disconnected the electrical stuff for the carb. I don't know. This is probably choke. This is... who knows? We're going to pull this throttle cable off and then see if we can get these nuts off for the carburetor that I cannot even see. Can't see that one. So we'll probably start at this one. It kind of looks like this carb has been off before because of the hardware. The washer on this side is a whole lot cleaner than the rest of the carburetor, and it was not very tight. Got that one off. Yeah, none of these are really that tight. I'm just kind of turning them with the wrench here and not really using much force at all. But they are kind of hard to get to. I might have to go get the other shorter wrenches. Yeah, let me go get the other shorter wrenches. I'll be right back. Alright, these wrenches are a little bit shorter. There's some no-name brand I got from my friend Tyler. But they're a whole lot easier to get in here in these tight spaces. There we go. Look, I took 2 off and the thing is, oh, it's missing some of the hardware. This is not up here, it's just completely missing. I didn't even know that. Alright, well, I guess we have 2 of the 3 nuts that are actually on it off. Can't really see this one though. I think it's just loose. I don't actually think it's tight at all. Yeah, I'm just turning it with my finger. It looks like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to take this carburetor off and didn't get it all the way off. Or maybe they just stuffed it back on because the guy ran out of money that was getting some work done on it. I still gotta go pick up the title. It's in Monroe at the Datsun house. Alright, that one's off. Boom. No more carburetor. Alright, now that that carburetor's off, we're just going to start taking random stuff off. So, we have better access to all the bolts for the intake manifold. Hopefully none of these went down the intake. I don't think they did. There we go. And then we'll just get these random vacuum lines off. That's loose. See, I'm glad we're doing this, because there's no telling how many vacuum leaks this actually has. That's off. Oh, I forgot about that. For the EGR pipe. Dang it. We might have to soak that so it'll actually come off. Let me go get the PB blaster. Got some blaster here. There we go. I guess we'll let that soak. I mean, is there really any point taking this off? No. Let me find a socket. 12 millimeter for pretty much any of these intake bolts. So I think all we need to order right now is probably, I don't know, 4 wheel cylinders and an intake gasket. And then I've got to weld up, I guess, some of these EGR pipes and stuff like that. We'll probably have to cut some of this stuff off with the angle grinder. So we'll probably need some more disc for that, because I'm out. That one's out. I guess we'll just set these on the battery for now. Because like, we're gonna have to take off this smog pipe too, and I guess weld that up. So we're gonna need, yeah, we're probably gonna need a flap disc. There's 3 tubes in the way. I guess I could just take this off so it's out of the way. I mean, it's not like it's doing anything, and both the nuts are already loose. I'll just throw that up there. There we go. I think there's like technically a way you can adapt these if you get like something flat so that you can block all this EGR stuff off. And I think these intake manifolds are better flowing, so we might go that route so I don't have to pull the whole intake off, but I doubt it because I like the other intake manifold better. And I don't plan on reusing it on the RV because the RV might get a KA swap. Well, it'll definitely get it eventually. I just gotta figure out the wiring. I don't know how to wire. There we go. Since that won't come off, we'll just break it so we can see. Haha. This is the good style of throttle cable, so we should be able to reuse this with our Weber. What else can we do? I gotta get that 4th bolt out. Oops. And it's out, pretty much. There's 4 in between the exhaust and the intake manifold. 2 are easy to get to, 2 are pretty much impossible to get to. So yeah, that's gonna be a whole lot of fun. But there's a whole lot more room now without the carburetor on. There's one right here that I can just get to. And then, like I said, the 2 in the middle are pretty much impossible to get to. Oh, you know what we could do? We could just JB weld up this intake. I don't know. We might do it. and then weld up the exhaust pipe. I don't know. That might be an option. There's one. So we're down 5 of the 8. There's one over here. All these are pretty loose. Like, you know, you take the intake and exhaust manifold off of an old truck, you expect them all to break. Never really had that problem with Datsuns. I don't know why they're always loose. I think the torque spec for these are so low that it doesn't really matter. There we go. 6 of the 8 are out. The 2 in the middle are the hard ones. Let me show y'all where those are at. So if you look closely in here, there's a nut right there. And on that side, there's one as well. You probably can't see that one because I can't see it. And there's pretty much no way to get to them. But we will figure it out. Yeah, we're definitely on it. And it's loose. That was easier than I remember. I gotta get the center one off. That center one is always a pain. And the EGR pipe is still in the way, so that's gonna be a whole lot of fun. There we go. Okay. All of the bolts and nuts are out. Or loose. The 2 in the middle are just loose. So we've got to somehow... Oh, that's not even for the intake. Yeah, it was just 8. I guess I'm just dumb. Oh, we gotta somehow get this off so we can get the intake off. And yeah, it's gonna be a whole lot of fun. I have no idea what this is for. I think it's for the AC, maybe a high idle or something. But I've never seen it before because all the dealer installed AC does not have it. Oh, almost lost my fingers. There we go, that's off. And trying to get it out of our way. Got it. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It doesn't look like a wire, it looks like a vacuum line. Throw this nut back on so I don't lose it. It's for the exhaust manifold. And we gotta get that EGR tube off. This is a 19. I don't know if this is the right size or not. I don't think so. Yeah, it's definitely bigger than 19. This is a 22. And 22 is too big. So it's going to be between 19 and 22. Let me find something that fits. Alright, looks like 21 fits. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit better. There's this threaded pipe here that goes up to this part of the carburetor, and we're just trying to loosen that so we can get the carburetor all the way off. Oh, it's actually spinning and it didn't break. Is that because I soaked it for like 5 minutes? I don't know. I've never had that look. They usually just break. yeah, that's off. Look at all that, it's all plugged up. Probably wasn't even the vacuum leak. Except for that one up top. That one up top's not plugged up. Yeah, this is all junk. And this is kind of what I mean. We could just kind of fill these holes with JB Weld if we really wanted to, and get rid of these studs, and we've pretty much got a better intake manifold than the one that I plan on putting on it. And I'm contemplating just doing that because we want as much power as we want, or as we can get. So let me think. I need to get this smog pump, or this rail off, but I'm not sure how much gas we got everywhere, and I don't want to catch the thing on fire. I wonder if those would unscrew if we soaked them. We might just let that sit for now. Oh, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. We might just let that sit for now because I've got to go to another birthday party today, and we'll see if that'll unscrew after or something. I don't know. We still gotta get everything knocked off. I guess we could just, like, I don't know, cut this off and fill it with JB Weld. Here, we'll spray that as well. Maybe we won't have to weld anything because we'll just JB Weld everything. We'll see. I'll throw something over this intake manifold so nothing gets in there. I guess like that. And we'll be back on this tomorrow. Alright, I'm doing just a little bit more before I have to go in. I got this thing off. I just used a giant pipe wrench. I got the two studs out of this, and looks like our heat shield just isn't attached, so I'm just gonna pull it out if I can get the zip tie off, and it'll be just out of the way now, since it's not doing anything but making noise. Yeah. Guess we don't have a heat shield for our exhaust, which means we're probably gonna have to keep this intake so we have this heat shield for it, because the intake I plan on using doesn't have a heat shield on it. So yeah, we will figure that out tomorrow. See you guys. Back out here on the old Datsun, trying to get this intake manifold off. I went ahead and pulled the throttle cable off and undid the brake booster vacuum line, so I don't think anything else is really holding it on. I need like a pry bar or something. Why isn't the intake coming off? Let me go get the rubber mallet. Why is this so stuck? I don't know. It feels like the exhaust manifold goes all the way up to the base of the carburetor. So, what if I just take off this last bolt for the exhaust manifold? Just trying to get this intake manifold off. I think there's more bolts on the bottom. Okay, it's loose now. All this stupid smog stuff's in the way. This we can just kind of bend, but this one needs to be out of the way. These are definitely connected. I've got to get this bolt out the back here for this little engine hook, but the intake and exhaust are like bolted together. I've never had this problem before. Let me get that bolt out. Alright, that is off. So next up, I'm going to crawl under this thing and get these 3 nuts off these flange bolt, or this flange here, so that our exhaust manifold is disconnected from our exhaust pipe. And then I'm assuming this comes out as one unit instead of 2 different ones, because I don't know, I've never had one where they're connected. And yeah, that's loose, and that's just one piece. So we're definitely gonna need an exhaust and intake manifold gasket, and then I guess we'll figure out how to plug up the exhaust and get rid of this small tube and all these pipes. Okay, I got the nuts out of the exhaust flange here. If I can get the flange to fall down a little bit, that would be great. There we go. Flange is down, which means the exhaust should be free from the exhaust pipe. Hopefully. I can't get the exhaust manifold to come out of the exhaust pipe. As you can tell, very, very fun to work on. I've got brake line soaking, I've got the exhaust soaking, so hopefully it'll come loose soon. I tried to use a hammer and it didn't really get rid of it, so what we're going to do is get rid of some of this stuff that is just taking up space in the engine bay that doesn't work anymore. Gonna take this off. We might get rid of the charcoal canister, I don't know yet. There we go, a little bit more room in our engine bay. I could take that smog pump off, but one of the bolts runs through the timing cover. Actually, 2 of the bolts run through the timing cover. So, I'm not sure if I want to deal with that just yet. Okay, I'm going to try to get this smog pump off. That nut is off. And then the timing cover bolts. There's a 10 here. And the one above it, I believe, is a 12. So they're all, yeah, different sizes. 10, 12, and 14. Of course, it adds the belt. There we go. And then the 12. Well, I thought that was it. Well, let me try to get this off, I guess. That'll get that whole bracket off. that off, which means we can get that bracket off. And this is still stuck. I do see a bolt on the back, but I assume that would just fall off because we took the nut off the front. Let me see if I can get something on that bolt in the back. And it's all the way out now. There's nothing holding this in. 1 second. Got it. Yay. Got the smog pump off. And junk. Next up we can get that pulley bracket off. And I'll put these timing bolts back in. Timing covered bolts back in. Alright, let's get this random pulley bracket off. I guess for the smog pump. I believe they're all broke free now. There's 2. Alright, got that bracket off. Get those timing cover bolts back in, and then I'll see if I can get this exhaust off camera. Still can't get the exhaust off, so I guess we'll just start getting these master cylinders off. Maybe I was wrong. Let me go get a vice grip so we get the other one off. I got it loose, but it's spinning with it. The line's spinning with the nut. And I don't want to break it. There we go. Believe I got it loose now. There we go. Got that one off. Now let's get those 2 nuts off the back off and get this master cylinder off. The bottom nut is off, but the washer won't come off now. Alright, got the bottom washer off. And brake master's out. I'm gonna clean up these studs real quick. Here we go. These should go on nice and smooth now. Yep. Okay, so I have like good and bad news. I got the intake manifold off. There's 2 bolts on the bottom, and then from the top there's 2 bolts. And I got it off, and I was very confused because there's a giant hole in the intake manifold, right? So yeah, this comes off. And now there's a giant hole in our exhaust manifold. So yeah, looks like we're stealing even more parts from the RV. Because I assume all this is like AC stuff. Because I don't know how this stuff works, but I'm assuming somehow this turns and it changes the idle or something. I don't know. But my other exhaust manifold doesn't have a giant hole in it, so we're probably going to use that one. But I don't think it's flat, so I think we're going to have an exhaust leak. And I still can't get this exhaust manifold off the exhaust pipe because it's still rust welded on. So I don't know. I got to figure that out too. So yeah, not having a whole lot of fun with this one, but I just found probably one of my dream Datsuns, and I think I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow for relatively cheap for what it is. But I gotta fix this one before we start on that one. Oh man, sitting here trying to get the exhaust manifold off. It's an L20B, right? Why does it have the square exhaust ports? Basically, the exhaust manifold I have is probably not gonna work because I'm pretty sure that this one has the round exhaust ports because it's actually out of 79. I think I threw my other one away, so I don't think we have any more exhaust manifolds, so that's great. But yeah, this is a round exhaust port, and that is going to be a square exhaust port. So we are definitely going to have a problem. Shoot. I guess I'll take that one off and just double check, but I'm like 99% sure it's square or circle exhaust port because the manifold gaskets are different. I was looking at that on O'Reilly's website, and I typed in 79 Datsun into 76 Datsun. They both have L20Bs, but they have different exhaust manifolds. Shoot. Yeah. Not having fun with this 76 at all. Okay, so I think I kind of have a plan now. What we're gonna do is probably order this exhaust manifold gasket. It comes with the gaskets for this heat riser. I know I said it was probably a high idle thing, but it's definitely not because it's on the exhaust manifold. But if we get these gaskets, we can seal up everything, fix all that. We'll probably have to fill in these holes as well, which means we'll probably get some JB Weld, fill up those exhaust holes. I found this back in the trash. We'll put this back on, fill up anything that needs to be filled up with JB Weld as well, and then we'll just run this intake manifold, I guess, since the one I wanted to use isn't gonna work, and we'll just slap all this stuff back together and call it good. It is what it is, but I didn't know it had all this extra stuff on it. And like I said, this is square port, so I can't use the exhaust manifold that I was going to use. So at least we won't have to fill this up because it'll screw right back into that. But it is what it is. I'll get that ordered up, I guess tonight. We'll go get it tomorrow and deal with this. Maybe tomorrow. I gotta pick up that car tomorrow. We'll see. Alright, it is officially Wednesday. I got the intake and exhaust manifold gasket. Our fuel tank is dry now. We're gonna paint the outside because it is late Wednesday. I just helped my cousin move into his new home, so we kind of have access to a lift now if we ever need it. So yeah, that's pretty neat. I won't be available tomorrow, so after work Friday we'll be able to work on the Datsun all weekend. What else? I did pick up that car, if you understand what I'm saying, the Datsun car. That trip was absolutely terrible. I got down to Atlanta, picked up the car, drove maybe 15 minutes on the interstate. The flex plate destroyed itself in the 4Runner, so I had to Uber to an AutoZone, Uber back, walk to a Walmart, buy a bunch of tools, and then I got to work on the side of the interstate, dropping my transmission and replacing my flex plate. Pretty much it took about, I don't know, 8 hours, and then so I left that morning at 8 a.m. I didn't get back home until 7 a.m. the next morning. But we made it. There's a Datsun in the driveway that is covered because that video is a surprise. Anywho, we're gonna paint up this outside of this gas tank. We'll get this painted up tonight, and then I'll get back to you guys on Friday for some real work. We'll get this gas tank in on Friday, and oh, I still have to order brake parts. I'll order brake parts on Friday when I get paid. This is rust reformer, so we're gonna use this on probably the whole tank. This has got to dry for 24 hours before we can do a top coat. What we'll do is, I've got a bunch of satin black paint. I'll probably finish painting this tomorrow night off camera, after I'm done being busy, and then, like I said, I'll just catch up with you guys on Friday. Alright, let's get this back side. Wish I had something just to hold it. See if I can flip it for the camera. There we go. All right, she's looking good. Got it fully coated. Like I said, I'll paint it tomorrow, and I'll get back with you guys on Friday. Finally Friday. This is what our gas tank looks like after it has dried with the satin black. I'm gonna get this in, and hopefully we can get that intake and exhaust back on, the new carburetor on, and hopefully it'll run today. All right, I'm under here getting this fuel tank in. What I'm gonna do is these vent hoses, I'll probably just keep them the same hoses, but the return here and the supply, we are gonna change these hoses so they don't leak. So yeah, let me get this up. While I was down here, the floors showed up for the RV. So we're one step closer to getting the RV back on the road. But yeah, I'm probably just gonna haul this up here by myself and update you guys after that. It's technically 6 bolts, but we're down to 4 because we broke 2 off. And then, I don't know, 2 vent hoses on top, a return line on the top, and then the supply line is on the side over here somewhere, and then the filler neck. So it ain't that bad. Okay, it is the next day. I got our fuel tank in. I got all of our fuel lines replaced. I got a new fuel filter in and everything like that. I forgot I signed up for a community event, so yesterday I didn't get much done at all. So we're gonna dump this gallon of gas in, and then we'll get back in the engine bay and get the intake and the exhaust back on. And we still have to weld up the smog pipes in the exhaust manifold. Getting our exhaust manifold cleaned up here so we can start welding on it. Stuffing some rags down these intake tubes so none of our spatter gets into our valves. Got our ground hooked up here. And we're about to turn this thing on kill mode, and hopefully it'll weld up these holes. I think that one's good. I'm gonna do the rest of these and then I'll catch up with you guys after that. There we go, we got all 4 welded up. That's still pretty hot, so we're gonna give that a little bit, and then we need to clean up this mating surface for our gasket here. And then what we need to do is pull the intake off and get this gasket off so that we can put our new gasket on. I went ahead and got the mating surface cleaned up for the heat riser. I'm still waiting on the exhaust manifold to cool down so we can get the intake and exhaust gasket off. Okay, moving along here, I got all of our gasket surfaces clean, even on our intake and that little riser plate. We're gonna start getting this thing thrown back together. We gotta put our intake on the exhaust before we put everything back onto the engine. And hopefully this stuff seals up. Yeah, it just kind of sits on there. I don't really understand why. I keep hitting the gasket. That one might be in. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, she's threading on. And that one feels like it's in now. Yeah, got them all. Let me get these cinched down and we'll get it bolted on. Got those all in nice and tight. This gasket does say that this side is the head side, so we're gonna put it on like this. I gotta sneeze. Trying to get around all of our small tubes and not mess up the gasket. There we go. She on. And now we can throw this back up here and we'll get it bolted on, and I'll be back after everything is bolted back on. Alright, I got everything bolted in except for this one. I kind of messed up the threads on the head, so what I'm going to do is get a thread chaser and clean those threads up, and then this will all be done tomorrow. I guess since it's getting late, we'll throw the carburetor on and make sure all of it seals up, and then we've also got to figure out what to do with this stuff over here. We'll get a gasket, we'll probably JB weld some stuff up, and we'll get this EGR pipe back on. And I think I have to find another stud because this one's missing. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stole a tap from my cousin earlier and got this thread cleaned up, got the bolt in, so the intake is completely on now. I think up next we are going to either get the carburetor on or figure this out, because we still have to make a gasket. I guess we'll do this. We'll take off this plate here and we'll get a gasket made up, get these surfaces cleaned up, because some of this stuff is like poking out and it's definitely not gonna seal. Getting our gasket surfaces cleaned up here. Luckily I hoard a bunch of Datsun parts, so we have another stud that we can pull for this one, and we have an EGR block off plate that we can use. Gonna pull the stud out of this intake so that we can have all three finally, and then I'm gonna make a gasket for this, clean up this surface, throw this EGR plate on, and it should be good to go. And then we might plug off these two up here, because I'm not sure what we would use them for. I think it would just be manifold vacuum, so I don't know, we might just get a plug for it, or like I said, plug them off like this one has been done. Got a gasket all made up for us. Got that bolt out. It's actually a bolt, not a stud, for this one. Gonna throw this onto the intake, and then I'll get that EGR block off plate off, and we can clean up this mating surface. Okay, got our EGR block off plate on, got this EGR tube back in, and this crankcase vent back on. Cleaned up the intake a little bit with the wire wheel, and I cleaned up this mating surface. I think we're not gonna run that heat shield just because it needs more gaskets. We're just gonna do a gasket here, do our adapter plate for our Weber, throw our Weber on top, and then I've got to figure out how to do a return spring. But I think we're gonna be able to use this throttle bracket, hopefully, but we'll see. I'm gonna go get the Weber off the other intake manifold, and we'll start getting the Weber thrown on. Getting our Weber thrown on here. As you can see, it's not bolted down yet. We are gonna have to use this throttle bracket for our throttle cable, because the factory one is so low, but that's fine. I'm gonna get this bolted on, and then we've got to run a fuel line over here, and we've got to run a vacuum line for our vacuum advance for our distributor, and then one wire to the electric choke somewhere, and she'll be good. Let me get this bolted in, and then we'll go from there. Alright, getting our carburetor on here. Found some lock washers for our studs here. Hopefully they fit. Okay, I think that last one's on. Let me get this bolted down, and I'll be right back. Alright, I got the Weber bolted in. I went ahead and put the vacuum line on for the brake booster and this breather hose. I think I'm going to get our wires hooked back up for our distributor and our electric choke, and then I am going to run a vacuum line for our vacuum advance to the carburetor and a fuel line, and we'll see if this pig will run again. We're so close. I got our temperature sensor plugged back in and our distributor plugged back in. I got these two vacuum ports blocked off, and I got a vacuum line ran to our vacuum advance. What I'm out of is fuel line that's long enough to go from here to here, so I'm gonna have to go back to the parts store and get some more fuel line. Other than that, we gotta figure out one of these for our carburetor, probably this red one since it's the only one with this style connector, the spade I think. But yeah, once I get some fuel line, we'll see if this thing will run on its own finally. Alright, I got our fuel line connected up. What we're going to do next is make sure that this red wire is keyed. So I'm going to go ahead and hook our battery back up. 12.1. Nothing right now. Let's go turn the key and see if it is keyed to power. Okay, it says 10.8. Now I could hear our bowl fill up. Doesn't look like Doesn't look like anything's leaking. Still hear our fuel pump running. So let me hook this up here. If it'll reach, we might have to extend this wire. I don't know what that means. Alright. Guess that's good enough. Let's see if it'll run. We'll give her one pump. Make sure it's in neutral. She's alive! Still need to do our throttle return, but she's not smoking or anything. Good. There's a little bit of chatter. I'm not sure what that is. Make sure that water pump's turning. Make sure it doesn't overheat. And then, like I said, we'll get our throttle return hooked up, hopefully. And she'll be good to go. And then we get the joy of fixing the brakes. It's starting to smoke in the back right now. This exhaust manifold smoking. I guess it's just because it's hot. I don't know. Okay, so I tried to set up a throttle return spring, but it's not low enough, so it's not fully closing the throttle shaft, so we're gonna have to fix that later. I guess it's circulating coolant. The temperature gauge does not work, so we'll have to order one of those. What I'm going to do right now is throw the master cylinder on, and I'll probably pull these wheels off and pull the drums off and just take a look in there. I know we're going to have to order wheel cylinders, so I should probably do that tonight. Throwing our new master cylinder on here, I am probably going to have to go get a kit so we can bleed this on the truck. Should have probably did the brake lines first, but we still have to bleed this thing, so we might have to pull it back off, and then we can get the brake lines on. But yeah, I'm gonna go shoot. There's a lot we can do and there's a lot we can't do. I need to get a bleeder kit for this. And then I also need to do the clutch master and the slave cylinder. I also need to do the drive shaft, which, to be honest, we might just use the one from the RV because I don't want to take a carrier bearing off, and that one's good. And we need to get all these drums off. So, guess we'll pull the drums off? Yeah. Let's pull all these drums off. Alright, this is the driver front. This one is not locked up. I wonder if we could find some bolts to thread in here. Let me see if I can do that instead. Okay, funny enough, the intake bolts are the same thread pitch as this drum. So I pulled some intake bolts off the RV's engine, and we'll use those to get this drum off. I think its battery's dead. Yeah, he did. It's that far off and still won't come off. The brake shoes are just grabbing it. Should have probably ran the adjusters in, but what's the point? There we go. The drum's off. That shoe has got pretty good life left. But yeah, I assume all these wheel cylinders are bad, so let me get the other three off, and I need another battery for the impact, so I'll do that. Got all the wheels and all the drums off. Definitely need wheel cylinders. These are kind of rusty. I mean, they don't look too terrible, but up here passenger front, I got this drum off with the impact, and this adjuster broke. So we're gonna need at least an adjuster, which is $50 for 2 of them, and then we still need all 4 wheel cylinders. I've got brake hoses that came with the truck and a clutch hose. This is the clutch hose, and then these are the 3 brake lines that we need. So I guess I'll order brake parts now, and maybe a temperature sensor, and we can get this thing on the road in a couple days. And we definitely need tires, but I can't really afford tires right now, so that'll be a problem for someone else, maybe. Got some brake parts ordered up. They're eBay specials, so there's a good chance they don't work. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this cowl back on, and I guess we'll get the hood back on, and then I just have to wait like another week to get my parts for this truck. This is missing 2 screws. Our brake parts showed up today. The hood's still off, so we're gonna get these drums all cleaned up, and we'll start getting our brake parts in. So hopefully this thing will have brakes here shortly. Alright, we're gonna start here in the back. There's 1 nut here for our bleeder. It's got 2 copper washers, and then what's holding in our wheel cylinder is 4 more nuts. I guess this isn't a nut, it's a banjo bolt for our brake fluid. See? And our eBay wheel cylinders did come with new copper washers, so I guess we'll use those instead. And then we've got our 4 nuts for our wheel cylinder. And there's 4. Now we can pull these drums, or these shoes back, hopefully. And we can get this wheel cylinder out. Might need a pry bar. Try not to lose a finger here. There we go. That one cylinder is out. And now we can replace it. This is gonna sit in here like this, so we gotta make sure our caps are lined up straight up and down. And we got to figure out how to get these these shoes back again. There we go. Now we can pry off of our wheel cylinder and get our drums back. That side is looking good. Scratching up our bed. There we go. There we go. Shein. I just gotta twist this cap so our shoe will fall in place. And she's in place. I'm gonna get this bolted in, gonna do the other side, and then we'll get the front on camera. Both rears are done. While I'm back here, I am going to change out this rear rubber brake line, and then I'll adjust these drums so that they are just dragging. I got both the adjusters to turn back here, so we're good back here. Like I said, I just need to adjust them. After we get these adjusted off, we'll pull the wheels back off and we'll get the bleeders out and just make sure they're not seized in there, which is a little backwards, but we need to get this adjusted first. Anywho, let me get this rear rubber line off and we'll go from there. There we go. Got it. There we go. And for the bottom one, I'm just gonna cut straight to cutting it off. It looks bad, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it off with just a wrench. So we're gonna cut it off and use a socket. Hopefully it's a 17. I think it is, but it's rough. We're gonna need a vice grip to hold that block in place so it doesn't move. Now let's see if we can get this thing off. Oh, got it. No copper washer with these made in Japan brake hoses that came with the truck. So I guess we'll reuse this one. Hopefully it don't leak. 17, hopefully. Yep. But I do want to make sure this washer is completely crushed. That's pretty tight. And now we'll get the top one back in. Fiddle thread. There we go. That's going in, I think. There we go. It fell in the hole so it shouldn't spin anymore. I'll get this all the way in. And then, like I said, I'll get these drums adjusted. And then we'll go to the front. Alright, just got this front passenger done. That's the one that had the broken wheel adjuster. Having a hard time getting the drum on, so I'm going to switch over here to the driver's side and get this wheel cylinder in and make sure that this adjuster actually turns. Not sure why I can't get that drum on, so we'll see what happens. Driver front is all patched up and done. Still can't get this drum on, so I looked at my eBay order, and these are adjusters for the rear. So what I'm thinking is they're a little bit bigger than the fronts, and that's why I can't get the drum on. So I'm gonna see if I can find an actual front brake adjuster, and we'll go from there, because that's the only thing I need is that front brake adjuster. Okay, some more updates here. So this is the rear one, this is the front one. As you can tell, the front one's a little bit shorter. What I think I'm gonna do is these are actually the same length, but the problem is the rear one has a smaller innard. This will not fit in here, so I think I am going to drill this out, if I have a drill bit that big, so that this will fit into the rear one. In this case, this should just slide in and be very loose, but I think the problem is that this one just isn't big enough. So let me see if I can drill this out, and hopefully we can get these brakes done today. Okay, back from Cameron's. I actually did not drill out the inside of this because it still wouldn't have been the right length. What we did was we took it apart, and on the housing we filed both sides of the housing down, and then the inside thing here with the wheel on it, we took that out and filed it down. It's pretty close now. I think it's maybe 1.5 millimeters off, but as you can tell, it's very close now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this one back apart, clean it up, because there's aluminum all in it, and I need to re-grease it. I'll get this in, hopefully the drum will go on, and we'll be back in business. Sorry for the poor lighting, but I finally got this one put in. If you're a long-time subscriber and you remember the silver truck, we had to pull the brake shoes out of that one and actually file the brake shoes down on the metal part where it connects to the wheel cylinder and the adjuster. So I pulled these shoes out, did that, and now it's finally on. I don't know why the other side didn't need it. So what I'm doing now is, right now I'm bleeding our master. I'll probably bleed all the brakes tonight, just because, I mean, there's not a whole lot to watch me bleed brakes. After we do that, tomorrow, I guess we'll do the clutch. We'll do the clutch master and the clutch sleeve. We'll bleed those, and then hopefully it'll be driving tomorrow. Got all the brakes bled up last night. We're gonna go through the hydraulic clutch system today. I'm gonna do this master cylinder and that slave cylinder, and then we've got to replace the drive shaft with the one from the RV, and pretty much just throw an air filter on this thing, and we'll be good to drive it today. So I'm gonna start pulling this master cylinder off, and just start getting to work. All right, let's get this master cylinder off. I threw a rag underneath it just so all the brake fluid does not go everywhere. I really hope this line is good because it looks terrible. I think this bottom one we can get with the ratchet. And we should be able to pull this off now. Oh, it's connected to the cable, or the pedal. Forgot about that part. Yeah, up in here, I always forget. You gotta take this pin out. And then push it out so that the clutch master will come out. Now it should just slide off. Yep. And we're actually gonna keep this one around so we get the right length for our assembly here. I'm gonna clean up this inner wheel well so it doesn't corrode, and then we'll get the new one on. All right, here's our new clutch slave. I got our adjustment pretty similar to the one that was already on it. What I'm gonna do is slide this in here, and then I am going to make sure that that's lined up on the inside of the truck. It's over the pedal, but I can't get it the pin in to the pedal. I'm gonna go ahead and thread this line in, and then we'll bolt it back on. I cleaned up the threads a little bit, so hopefully these nuts will go on a little bit easier now. Okay, top one then. There we go. Now let's get this line tightened down. Alright, that line is tight. We'll go on the inside and get that pedal on. Getting this pin back in here, and it goes right on because we're at the right length. Now we just got to get our cotter pin back in it. There we go. Alright, that's in now. Guess we'll climb under it now and do the slave cylinder. We're gonna go ahead and pull this slave cylinder off. We're gonna have to figure out how to get to the line way up in there, but we don't have to take the line off of this because we're replacing the line. Here's one. There's two. That can just hang out there for now. And then, like I said, we've got to figure out how to get that line off so we can replace it. What I am gonna do, since we don't want ours all twisted up like that one, is we're gonna go ahead and install this. We need a washer. Forgot about that. Okay, I found a random copper washer on the ground when we did the brakes. And now we just tighten this down so the washer seats. We might hit that with some more force when it's actually bolted in, just to make sure it's all the way in. That's how it's gonna go on. We just gotta get that line off. Okay, I hope you guys can see that line is right here up in the engine bay. I think we're just gonna go ahead and hit it with some torch. Got it off. That took a whole bunch of heat and a whole bunch of PB blast here, but we saved the line and we got it off. So we're gonna get this one up in there now, bolt it in, and get our line on. and make sure our copper washer is actually seated. Alright, let's get the slave in now. Might be a little difficult, but I think we got it. We just gotta collapse our plunger a little bit. The bottom of this engine is nasty. I can't see that side, so tell me if I'm close. And now we tighten her down. Yeah. And like I said, I just want to make sure that copper washer is actually set so it doesn't leak. There's not a whole lot of room down here. We might have to pull this bleeder out. That bleeder is out. And we need to go down. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, that's good now. Thread this bleeder back in, and then we'll get that line on, and we can start bleeding this thing. There we go. Got that line all buttoned up. I guess we can bleed out our clutch system now. I'm gonna get Meredith out here to help me bleed it, and hopefully we'll be driving this thing very, very soon. Went ahead and got our hood bolted down. The clutch system is completely bled. I actually had to go to Lowe's and get some clear tubing to bleed it. It would not bleed on its own. I thought it was because the bleeder was on the bottom of the slave, but I went and looked at the slave on the RV and it was the same way. So yeah, we went and got some clear tubing, just pumped it through the system, put the tubing in the reservoir, so we're essentially just circulating the fluid all the way around. And yeah, got it bled out. The slave's moving now, so we're all good there. The last thing we gotta do before we drive it is the drive shaft, and then we will throw the air filter on and vacuum out the inside because there's still some mouse poop in there. And yeah, we'll take this thing for a test drive soon. Got our air filter on. I went ahead and swapped out the coolant temperature sensor from the one on the RV because I know that one works, so hopefully our temp gauge will work now. I'm about to swap out this drive shaft. I got the front tilted forward so no transmission fluid comes out. What I'm probably gonna do is just quickly swap that out. I still gotta get the carrier bearing mount out of the way, which is super hard to record, and then I'll just slide the drive shaft in so we don't have to replace a carrier bearing today. And then we'll take this on its maiden voyage after I pump up the tires because they're pretty old. So yeah, let me get this drive shaft swapped out and I'll be right back. Got our good drive shaft swapped in. This is what I was talking about. The carrier bearing's absolutely blown in this thing. To change it, you have to take off the rear drive shaft. There's a big nut in here, and so basically this flange is pressed on and the carrier bearing is pressed on, so that's a whole lot of work to actually change that. We lost a tiny bit of transmission fluid. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but like I said, the good drive shaft's in with the good carrier bearing. I'm gonna clean up my mess, go take a shower. We'll put the battery back in this and bleed the cooling system again, and it's about time to drive this thing. Okay, slight change of plans because I forgot something. Before I get clean, let's clean this truck. Truck cleaned up real nice. Now that it's clean, I'm gonna go get clean and we'll take this thing for a trip around town. I'm all clean now. We're gonna get our battery thrown in here and get our coolant topped off. I do not trust this battery tray at all. I pushed down on the battery and everything fell down. Alright, battery batteries in. Let's throw some coolant in this thing and start it back up. Smoking pretty good and pretty chattery. Well, that's another one saved. The brakes kind of go to the floor. It vibrates a whole lot. The clutch lets off right at the floor, but she's back from the dead. Looks pretty good besides the rot in the doors. But yeah, another one saved. I'll see you guys at home. Back home, didn't have any issues. Obviously this still needs a bunch of work. It definitely needs new tires. This one's starting to bulge and they're all completely cracked up. It idles really high, but it's not dieseling, so that's good. Nothing on the dash really works. Fuel gauge doesn't move, temp gauge still doesn't move. The radio works though. So yeah, it definitely needs a whole bunch of work, but that's about all I've got for this one. If you guys want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, comment what you want to see. I do have this one coming up next. If you want a sneak peek, there's your sneak peek. If you want a better sneak peek, go look at my Instagram, Rusty.Datsun. I've got this one on there. This one, Instagram already knows what this is, and Instagram already seen it run. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. She's doing pretty good. I know one of my clips is out of order, but I did get the coolant sensor to start working. I had to replace a fuse in the fuse box. The meter fuse was actually blown, and now all the lights on the dash actually work now. It drives pretty good. It's just really shaky with these bad tires on it, and the brakes just are not good at all. I did fix the clutch pedal. I think that's also a clip that's out of order, but she's doing pretty good. It drives pretty good, and I'm just happy it's back on the road.